Okay, first of all, I just want to thank you, Jeff, for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and we can have a talk about why communication is important in the workplace. And especially as an undergraduate, I want to understand why communication is important. And I thought that maybe you could elaborate on that with your role that you previously had. So,
You're most welcome. First of all, I guess it's important that we understand what communication means. Uh, there's different types of communication. Electronic, this is communication. Us talking is communication. But it's also important to realise who is the target of communication. There's the intended target, but there can also be unintended targets. And there's the message that you're trying to convey, and the message that you are conveying, and the message that you didn't actually mean to convey. So, what do you mean by communication in the workplace?
well, for me, I reckon communication's more of the one-on-one sit down and work something out, or if you're just having a conversation with someone and just see how they're going, that's also communication.
Mm-hmm.
So I reckon that's based on what I know. I think that's the best way for communication in the workplace.
What you're talking about is a management style called management by walking around. And that's where a manager physically goes to the people's desks and talks to them. I'm a big believer in management by talking around. I'm a big believer in one-on-one communication. There are so for as an undergrad, the hardest thing for you is going to be using one particular sentence. I don't understand. That sentence is incredibly empowering because it tells who you're talking to that you're really struggling, but it says you're open to hear and you want to hear. It's incredibly, it makes you vulnerable because you could have the idiot who says, oh, I don't understand that. They're the people you just have to ignore.
There's always people like that.
Often they're your best friends.
Yeah.
So you know you'll say the same thing to them. As long as it's said in jest, that's fine. But what it does mean is you're telling the person who's communicating with you, I want to know more. This is something I don't understand, and as long as you say it, say this is clear, but I want to understand it. I've seen a vice chancellor of a university, when I've talked to him, has looked at me and said, I don't understand. So I've had to change my message to someone that I know is incredibly bright, so much smarter than me. They don't understand that point, and they're prepared to say, I don't understand. By saying that, you open yourself up to having a deeper engagement, and everyone loves talking. Everyone loves talking about what they're interested in. So you say that person is going to say, okay, well, have you thought about this? It's saying to them, can you please tailor your message for me?
So that's like the main point that you've taken away from your experience in the workforce is tailoring messages for a specific group, but not necessarily acknowledging them directly. So if you're on a one-on-one, you can work out a message that is just for that person. But then if you're talking to a seminar or something to try and gather what experience everyone's at.
When I talk one-on-one to someone, so in my in the job that I had, someone would want something explained. I would go and sit with them, and the first question I'd ask him is, "What do you understand from this?" It's establishing their context. Your context doesn't matter. You understand it. Their context matters. Their context matters. What is it that? Where are they coming from? What do they understand? Saying the phrase, what is your stop ball, to an experienced cricketer is a really easy question to ask. Saying that to someone who doesn't understand what that means, you may as well hit them over the head with a brick. what is their context? The short phrase I would use is manage expectations. Use communication to manage expectations. It's with your friends, with your academic friends, even with your family. So if you've got to explain something to your parents, make sure you explain it in a way that they can understand it, because their context is different. They're not as savvy with technology. They're not, social media can seem like a bad thing to them, as it partly would do to you. But the difference is you understand how to control it. You've managed your expectations about it. Manage theirs.
That's great advice, and I think we might have to end it on that. And I'd just like to thank you once again, and all the best in the future.